Ever feel like you're just, stuck on that financial treadmill? You're doing all the things society tells you. You got the education, the job, working hard.
Paying the bills.
Exactly. But somehow, real wealth, or even just feeling financially secure, it seems, always just out of reach. You see other people who seem to have figured it out, and you wonder, like, what did I miss?
It's a really common feeling, isn't it? That sense of being trapped, like there's some secret financial playbook that nobody gave you in school.
Yes. And that feeling, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're looking at a book that really shook things up by challenging those exact ideas. Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, it caused quite a stir. And our mission here is pretty straightforward. Pull out the core, the most powerful ideas from this book. It really does offer a different way to look at money, assets, even what education is really for.
Yeah, and hopefully help you see things through that lens, too.
That is-
The whole book is framed around this contrast, which is what makes it so memorable, I think.
Yeah.
Between Kiyosaki's two dads, there's his actual father, highly educated, government job, the poor dad, who, despite his credentials, struggled with money.
Right. And then there's his best friend's dad, the rich dad, an 8th grade dropout, believe it or not, who became, well, very wealthy.
And the point isn't about judging them personally, right? It's about these two fundamentally different ways of thinking about money.
Totally. One dad focused on earning a salary, job security. The other focused on building wealth, making money work for him. It's really a deep dive into different mindsets, different systems for handling finances.
Okay, so let's unpack that first big idea, because it really resonates if you felt that treadmill effect. Kiyosaki calls it the rat race.
Oh, yes, the rat race.
It's sort of conditioned, aren't we? Go to school, get the grades, find a safe job, benefits, climb the ladder maybe. That's the path we're shown. The poor dad way.
Yeah.
Work hard for your money.
And Kiyosaki's argument is, look, that path offers some security, sure, but it often leads straight into this cycle. You earn money,
Pay your bills.
you maybe get a raise, so you spend a bit more, maybe a bigger house, nicer car.
Lifestyle inflation kicks in.
Right, and
Yeah.
suddenly that higher income is just swallowed up by bigger payments. You're working harder, running faster, just to stay in the same financial place.
It really feels like that hamster wheel sometimes. So what keeps people stuck there? According to the book, what are the drivers?
He points to 2 big emotional forces, fear and desire.
Okay.
Fear is huge. Fear of not having enough money, fear of losing your job, the source of that security, fear of, stepping off the beaten path,
Makes sense.
and desire.
That's the pull towards, well, the nicer things.
Yeah.
Keeping up with the Joneses, lifestyle upgrades, luxuries. These emotions, fear and desire, he argues, they often dictate financial decisions more than logic does. People prioritize that feeling of security or immediate gratification.
Over maybe the harder choices needed for long-term wealth. Exactly. So the poor dad philosophy focuses on maximizing your paycheck, maybe getting a pension, job security, trading your time directly for money.
Yeah.
Rich dad's perspective wasn't saying traditional education is useless, not at all, but that it's incomplete. It trains you to be a good employee, maybe a specialist.
But not necessarily how to build wealth for yourself.
Precisely. For Rich Dad, financial education was just as, if not more, important. The goal wasn't just a good job, it was financial independence. Having your money work for you, not the other way around.
Which leads us perfectly into what's probably the absolute cornerstone of the book and maybe the most counterintuitive part for many people.
Assets versus liabilities.
Yes, this is where it gets really interesting. Kiyosaki presents this super simple distinction as the key to everything. It cuts through a lot of financial jargon.
It really does. It forces you to look at everything you own or might buy in a completely different way. And Rich Dad's definitions are incredibly straightforward.
Based purely on cash flow. Right. Not potential future value or anything else complex.
Spot on. An asset, according to Rich Dad, is simply anything that puts money in your pocket. Period.
Okay, so give us some examples from the book. What actually puts money in your pocket?
Well, think about things that generate income without you constantly working for it. So, rental properties, bringing in monthly rent, that's cash flow in.
Right.
Businesses that you own but don't necessarily have to run day to day, they generate profit. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, if they pay dividends or you realize capital gains.
Income generators?
Yeah. Even intellectual property, like if you write a book or patent an invention, the royalties are money coming to you. It's all about the direction of the cash flow.
Okay, so that clarifies assets. Then the flip side, liabilities, must follow that same simple logic.
Exactly the same logic, just reversed. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket.
And this is where he really starts challenging conventional
I'll
wisdom,
bet.
isn't it? Especially with the whole house debate.
Oh, absolutely. That's probably the most talked about point. Kiyosaki argues that your primary residence, the house you live in, while most people think of it as their biggest asset.
Yeah, everyone says that. My house is my biggest asset.
Right. But under his strict cash flow definition, it often functions as a liability. Why? Because money is constantly flowing out because of it. Mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, repairs, maintenance.
It costs you money every single month.
Precisely. Unless you're renting out a room or something to generate income from it, the cash flow is negative. He's not saying don't own a home, but just be clear about its financial function based purely on cash flow right now.
So it's not about whether it might appreciate over 20 years. It's about its impact on your monthly budget today.
That's the core of his distinction. Other common liabilities he lists are things like cars they depreciate, cost fuel, insurance, upkeep,
Money out.
credit card debt, interest payments drain your cash, and just general consumer goods, gadgets, clothes. They cost money and don't bring any back in.
So the whole game then, according to Rich Dad, is to focus on accumulating the things that put money in your pocket.
And minimize the things that consistently take money out. And this leads to those simple cash flow diagrams he uses in the book.
Right, showing the difference.
Yeah. For the poor and middle class, income comes in from a job and immediately flows out to cover expenses and to pay for liabilities like mortgages, car loans, credit cards. Their income mostly just services these obligations.
Practically living paycheck to paycheck, or close to it, even with a good salary.
Often, yeah. The rich, or those adopting the rich dad mindset, they direct their income differently. It comes in, and the first place a portion goes is towards acquiring more assets.
Okay, buying things that will generate more income.
Exactly. Then the income generated by those assets is used to cover expenses and any liabilities they might have. Their money is actively put to work to make more money.
So the system itself starts generating income, not just their job.
That's the fundamental shift. Your money starts working for you. And the ultimate goal, the definition of wealth in this context, is when the passive income from your assets exceeds your living expenses. That's financial freedom. You're no longer solely dependent on your job for survival.
And getting there, achieving that freedom, brings us to the next really critical theme in the book: the absolute necessity of financial education.
Right. Kiyosaki is very strong on this point. He argues that our traditional school system, while great for professional training, often fails miserably at teaching us practical financial intelligence.
Yeah, you learn calculus maybe, but not how to balance a checkbook, let alone analyze an investment property.
Exactly. So what does this financial literacy actually mean, according to Rich Dad? It's not mystical. It boils down to understanding, like, four main pillars.
What are they? Accounting is one, right?
Absolutely fundamental. You need to be able to read numbers, understand financial statements, track cash flow, know where the money is actually going. It's the language of money.
Makes sense. What else?
Investing. Understanding different types of investments, stocks, bonds, real estate, businesses, how they work, the risks involved, how to manage that risk.
So knowing where to put your money once you have it.
Yep. Then understanding markets. Basic economics, supply and demand, how market cycles work. This helps you spot opportunities and potential pitfalls.
And the last one, law.
Yeah, understanding the basics of law, especially as it relates to finance, tax advantages, corporate structures for protecting your assets, contracts. These practical skills were what Rich Dad emphasized.
So it's a stark contrast. Poor Dad pushed academic and professional skills for job security. Rich Dad pushed learning these financial skills, almost like street smarts for money, to build independence.
And a big part of that was learning by doing. Rich Dad really stressed experience. You can't just read about investing and become good at it. You need to start maybe small, make some mistakes.
Learn from them.
Exactly. And keep learning constantly. Read, attend seminars, talk to people who are doing it. It's an ongoing process.
And really, this financial education isn't just about the technical stuff, is it? It's about fundamentally shifting your mindset.
That's the deeper layer. It's learning to see the world through the lens of an investor, not just an employee or a consumer. Seeing opportunities where others just see problems or expenses.
Which sounds great in theory, but putting it into practice, that's the hard part. And the book acknowledges that, right? It talks about the internal obstacles.
Oh, definitely. Just knowing the difference between an asset and a liability doesn't automatically make you wealthy. Kiyosaki outlines what he calls the 5 major obstacles that stop people.
And number one is probably the biggest. Fear.
Yep. Fear of losing money, fear of failure, fear of taking a risk. It's paralyzing for so many people.
And Rich Dad's take wasn't be fearless, was it?
No, not at all. It was more about understanding that losing is part of winning, especially in investing. The rich aren't afraid to lose sometimes, they just manage the risk. They learn from losses. The poor are often so afraid of losing any money that they never take the actions needed to potentially gain significant money. Fear keeps them in the safe zone, which often isn't really safe long term.
Okay, obstacle 2. Cynicism.
Ah, the what if monster. Doubting every opportunity, listening to all the negative Nellies, finding reasons why something won't work instead of how it could.
We all know people like that.
Right. And while you need to be discerning, you can't let cynicism shut you down. Rich Dad encouraged being open to possibilities, doing your own homework, and not letting other people's fears dictate your actions.
Then there's laziness, which doesn't just mean sitting on the couch, does it?
No, it's often more subtle. It's being too busy to manage your finances or procrastinating on learning about investing or just avoiding financial matters because they seem overwhelming.
The I'll deal with it later syndrome.
Exactly. And Kiyosaki has an interesting take here. He suggests sometimes the cure for this kind of laziness isn't just willpower, but tapping into a little bit of greed. Not negative greed, but the positive desire for a better life, for financial freedom. Focusing intensely on what you want can motivate you to overcome that inertia.
Interesting. Okay, 4th obstacle. Bad habits.
This is huge. Primarily bad spending habits, just letting money flow out indiscriminately. But the biggest bad habit he targets is the habit of paying everyone else before you pay yourself.
What does paying yourself first actually mean in this context?
It means that when you get paid, the very first bill you pay is to your future self by allocating a set portion of that income directly into your asset column before you pay the mortgage, the credit cards, the utilities.
Wow, that's radical for most people. The instinct is to pay the bills first so you don't get in trouble.
Right, but Rich Dad argued that if you pay yourself first, the pressure to then meet your other obligations forces you to be more creative, maybe cut expenses elsewhere, or find ways to increase income. It prioritizes building wealth. It's a forced discipline.
Okay, and the last obstacle, arrogance.
Thinking you know it all, especially dangerous with money. If you think you've got it all figured out, you stop learning.
And the financial world changes fast.
Constantly. So humility is key. Always being open to learning more, admitting what you don't know, seeking advice from experts. Arrogance closes your mind.
So overcoming these 5 things, fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance, is crucial to actually implementing the asset building strategy.
It's the internal work that makes the external strategy possible. The book really emphasizes that taking action, even small action, is the key. Start where you are, learn as you go, adjust. Don't wait until you know everything.
Because you'll never know everything.
Never. Action is the bridge.
Okay, so let's bring this home. For someone listening right now who's maybe feeling inspired or intrigued by these ideas from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, what are some concrete first steps they could take?
Well, the very first thing, I think, is just honest assessment. Take a hard look at your own finances. Use that simple cash flow definition. Where is your money actually going? Are you buying assets that put money in your pocket or mostly liabilities that take it out? Start tracking, even just for a month. Get the real picture.
Knowledge is power, step 1.
Exactly. Step 2, commit to your own financial education. Reading this book is a great start. Listening to deep dives like this helps, but keep going. Find other reputable books, websites, maybe courses or seminars. Find people who know more than you, maybe a mentor. Make learning about money an ongoing priority.
Don't just rely on what school taught you or didn't teach you.
Definitely not. Then actively work on that mindset shift we talked about. Start asking yourself with every financial decision, is this an asset or a liability according to the cash flow rule? Train your brain to see opportunities to acquire assets.
Okay, assess, educate, shift mindset. What about actually doing something with money?
Take calculated risks, but start small. Keywords: calculated and small. Don't go bet your life savings on some speculative venture tomorrow.
Right.
But do something. Maybe it's setting up an automatic investment of $50 a week into a simple low-cost index fund. Maybe it's researching local real estate investment clubs and just attending a meeting. Maybe it's brainstorming a small side business you could start with minimal capital. The goal is to get started putting some money into that asset column, however small.
Break the inertia.
Precisely. And finally, maybe start talking about it. Break the taboo around money talk. Discuss financial goals and ideas with your partner, your family, trusted friends. You might find support, accountability, even partners for future ventures.
Yeah, just opening up the conversation can be powerful.
It really can.
So when you boil it all down, Rich Dad Poor Dad isn't just a how-to guide for getting rich quick. It's presented more as a fundamental challenge.
Yeah, a challenge to question the path you were given, to take full responsibility for your own financial future, and to really internalize that wealth isn't about how big your paycheck is.
But about how much you keep and how hard that money works for you by building up those income-producing assets.
It's definitely a journey, and it starts with that mindset shift, followed by consistent action. It's not overnight, but it's about changing direction.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening, something to chew on based on the spirit of the book. What's one small thing, just one tiny step you could take this week, maybe even today, that aligns with this idea of making money work for you? Something that starts moving even a little bit of money or focus towards your asset column instead of just liabilities and expenses.
Because that first conscious decision, that first small action based on building assets, well, that's really where a different financial future begins.